Have you ever had a brilliant idea, but then you were so busy that later on you completely forgot about it? Now, this could be something about your business, it could be about your family, it could be just something that was fun and you would have liked to remember that later on. Well, in this episode, I'm going to share a really simple system called the Someday Maybe list and how it can help you to recall those brilliant ideas and to build your own library of ideas that you can access in the future, whether for business, for fun, something with your family. And we're getting started right now. Welcome to Coach Carson TV. My name is Chad Carson. You can also call me Coach. And this channel is all about investing in real estate so that you can achieve financial independence and do more of what matters. Today's episode is about something called the Someday Maybe list. It's definitely not an original idea for me. It came from a book called Getting Things Done, which I have a very dog-eared copy that I've underlined and used for years by a guy named David Allen. And this is one specific idea. Some people kind of overlook this idea from the book because it's not the core part of the organization system and the time management system. But I want to share with you how this system, again, can help you collect your ideas and recall them. And I'm going to go behind the camera and do a little drawing to show you how that works. Now, a Someday Maybe list is just like it sounds. It's simply a list or a group of lists that you use for things that aren't urgent. So this is I want to differentiate here because you're going to have things in your life, like you're going to have weekly goals, daily goals, things you're trying to accomplish with your personal life, with your career, with your job, your business. Those things are going to be front and foremost in your mind. And a big benefit of this Someday Maybe list is these are not things that you're working on at the moment. They're not really urgent, but they could be really important. Maybe they're not important, but they're things that you don't want to forget that are going to, if you're so busy, they're usually going to get just lost in the shuffle. And so this is a way to make sure those ideas don't get lost in the shuffle. And you can organize it in a couple different ways. I'm going to give you some subcategories in a minute. I'm going to show you my system and kind of give you an example of how I use a daily planner to organize a lot of my lists. But just keep in mind to start off that these lists can either be a paper list or you can keep something digital. And my recommendation is just keep it really simple, like Google Docs. And you can either do, just like one list that have one Someday Maybe list on paper, one Someday Maybe list on your Google Docs, or you can do what I'm going to talk about here in a second is I'm going to share some categories with you. So you can have maybe some sub lists. And so like, for example, I've used the Google Sheets, which is the spreadsheet program for Google, which is free and you can collaborate with other people. You can share it really easily. That's one reason I like that. You can have a tab for each of these subcategories that I'm going to go over. So if you have 3 or 4 lists of different categories of Someday Maybe, you can have a tab for each one of those, but you have one sheet. So that's easy to access. You can remember where it is. And very similar with paper, if you have it in a planner or something you carry around a lot, you can just have 3 to 4 pieces of paper, and each one of those is a separate list based on a category. Now, I'm going to give you some examples that I think will make this come alive a little bit more and show you some of the subcategories that I like to use and I've seen other people use. So as I said before, if you want to keep it very simple and just have one Someday Maybe list, I would be totally fine with that. And it might be a great way to get started. Keep it simple. But I've also found, at least as I start writing a lot of those ideas down, that I come up with some themes, some categories. And you could almost look at these as like buckets or blank pieces of paper that when you tell your mind, hey, here's a list of books to read that I want to read someday, when you have that list, you tend to start thinking of them. You tend to start asking people, hey, what books do you recommend? What do you like? And because you now have a place to put them instead of them randomly kind of floating around in your head or some piece of paper you have in your purse or in your car somewhere or in your wallet. And so this is just an organized way to keep ideas out there. And if ideas are important to you, which they should be for everybody in the thinking economy, if you want to be able to apply things in your life, this is a really valuable list to have. So some of the common subcategories that I like to use, I already mentioned books to read. You're probably getting recommendations from books all the time. You might get some of those from me on my podcast or my YouTube channel. And so you write down books to read. And I also like to include who referred it to me. That way, if it ends up being a book I just love, I can thank that person or reference them as the person who recommended that book to me. You can do the same things with movies if you're a movie buff. And I actually keep a lot of my movies, just on Amazon Prime. So that could be a separate list there. You can just kind of tag the movies that you want to watch later on. You could do recipes to try. So that's a lot of fun if you are wanting to try new things and share it with other people. Some people do that on Pinterest. You just make your own to-try recipes. So you have a Pinterest list or something, but you can also do it on paper or on your Google Doc. Places to visit. If you're a traveler like me, having somebody's going to tell a story of this amazing place they went to in Thailand, and they tried went to this kind of the ruins or this restaurant in your town. If you can write down those places or write down the things to do, you will remember them. That might not seem significant at the time, but life is so rich. There's so many stories you learn, and to let those just leave your life and not be able to go back to them is a shame. So this helps you kind of capture those valuable ideas. House projects is a big one. And it's, there's always things to do at your house. There's a never-ending list of projects that need to be fixed. And it can be stressful when you can't fix them right away. You just can't get it all done. And so if you can collect them an idea there, say, this is not super urgent, but I know I need to get this done, but you don't want to forget about it, you can put all your house projects on a list as well. The same goes for business. And the business and job projects end up becoming pretty big lists for me. And I have multiple, one for each business. I have a Coach Carson list. I have a real estate investing list, and I have a nonprofit. So I have another list for that one as well. And these are things that they're not urgent. They're not happening right now, but I don't want to forget about them. They're really good ideas. I want to get back to them later on when I'm doing some kind of big picture planning for that business. I also do a lot of creative, just creating podcasts and videos and articles. And so I keep lists and I've actually subcategorized them by topic. So I have some of my podcasts are interviews. So I have a list of people I might want to interview or topics that might be interesting. I have some videos like this or podcasts like this that are big ideas, but in small time frames. So they might not deserve 60 minutes, but they're, kind of nice ideas that I really like. And so I just start collecting those. And I found if you're a creative person, that if you give space for your brain to put these ideas on paper and you categorize them and organize them, you'll get more and more ideas. I never run out of ideas because I'm constantly coming up with them or talking to somebody and I say, that's a great idea, put it down on the list. And then you can filter through them later on when you go to actually write or create or do something with it. So all of these are ways essentially to organize your thinking, to capture brilliant ideas. And you do have brilliant ideas. There are a lot of them out there. And I want to share, maybe to make this even more real, an example using my own planner of how I do this and show you a couple of my lists. So here you have my trusty daily planner, and I usually go through a couple of these per year, or a couple of these every 2 or 3 years. I go through another one, but I've been doing this at least a decade, maybe 15 years of organizing my life on paper. And there's digital forms of doing things. There's analog, doing it like this. I really enjoy the paper as much as I can. I definitely have lists on digital. I do digital calendaring, but I have found this to be really nice because I'm not getting distracted by cell phones and everything else. So I can do more videos if you like in the future. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to talk about how I use this planner kind of in general. But you can see, I'll just make a couple notes. There's some coach cards. Somebody happens to see me, I hand those out. I don't really give many of those out. I'll write down little cards of quotes or goals, things that I really want to think about. Here's one that I'm trying to just remember. Marcus Aurelius, Stoic philosopher, be a man worthy of the universe that gave you birth. That's a pretty cool idea, right? So I have things in my planner, but I also have like day-to-day lists. I have calendar in here, but what I'm talking about here is my someday maybe list. And in the back of my planner, you can see these A, B, C, D, E, F, G. People used to use those for contacts, and I don't do that anymore. It's in my phone. But I do have it by topics. And so I don't have a lot of things back here, but I have in the S section, someday maybe. I can just quickly go to that. And I have different pieces of paper. So here's an example of one that's been very helpful for me. I do public speaking. I do videos, obviously, and podcasts. And so stories are really important, being able to tell stories. So when I'm sitting there listening to somebody tell a great story, I want to remember that. Let me see an example of a story that I heard. I was listening to Warren Buffett do an interview, and he was talking to students and he told these students, you're worth $1 million right now. So this is the story where I wrote it down. So I'll write kind of the punchline of the story. I'll write a couple of topics, anything else I don't want to use to remember that kind of takeaway from the story. And that's kind of cool to be able to remember these stories. So I just have a library going of different stories that are important to me. Here's my book list. So I've had this going for a long time here, but Ray Kroc, Under the Golden Arches, somebody recommended that. I put the source here on the left side. So what's the source of the book? I got that reference in the E-Myth when I was reading that. I've got some other ones here, Team of Rivals, Social Intelligence, and I mark them off and check them as I read them. You can see this list keeps going. I've been keeping it. And some of these I never come back to. It's just an idea. Somebody mentioned it, thought that was cool. Other ones I have read and I really enjoyed. So a list of books, the source, the title, the author, and I do that as well. Let's see if I find anything else that might be interesting. Here's some of my article ideas. I've actually moved from just having a paper list of articles. I have a spreadsheet now because I have some other people helping me collaborate on ideas. So I've moved from the analog version to a digital version, which actually worked out a lot better for me to organize all my content on my blog and podcast and everything. But you can see some of those. And let me show you one I wanted to get to, some real estate projects. So my home projects here are things like, here is the kitchen. I want to make sure I do something in the kitchen, insulating, fix the storm doors, do something in the bathroom. So there's all sorts of projects I want to do. Fix the broken brick on the front porch. That's kind of nice to be able to fix that. So I'm not going to do that right away, but it's something I want to remember. And so someday maybe list. That's the way I do it. I keep it on pieces of paper. Hope that was helpful for you. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube and how this idea sits with you. Is this something you can use? Do you have a someday maybe list? If you're listening on the podcast, send me an email at podcast@coachcarson.com or send me a message on Instagram if you are following me there. I'd love to hear from you how the someday maybe list idea could apply to your life and whether you have a category that I didn't mention. Maybe there's another one I could bring up to people and mention in the future. If you like this video and the channel overall, be sure to hit the like button and share it with your friends and your family and your colleagues. I would really appreciate that. And be sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss anything in the future. Got a lot of great videos coming to you. Some of those I had in my someday maybe list, and I've now brought them back to life, and I'm going to share them with you. And also don't forget about my free real estate investing toolkit. You can see a link in the description below. It gives you a lot of tools and things you can use for your real estate investing business and your path to financial independence. Things like I have a closing checklist you can use when you're buying a rental property. I have a deal worksheet that I use for the formulas and the questions I ask when I'm negotiating. A lot of other goodies that'll help you on your journey to financial independence. You can get that by clicking on the link in the show description. Really appreciate you being with me here today. My name is Chad Carson. You can always call me Coach. You've been watching Coach Carson TV, which is all about investing in real estate so you can achieve financial independence. And then most importantly, of course, so you can do what matters. See you next time.